That's right. Come closer, you freaks. No, not that close. I don't like to look at your face. What we have next are tales of Christmas horror. Not so much Merry Christmas, Scary Christmas. Ho, 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 ho! So, come join us and find out what is on the snow-capped peaks of Ben McDewey. What is this scary ghost that comes around every Christmas at Rainham Hall? All this and more on Nightmare Truth.
Story 1. Rainham Hall in Norfolk, England is haunted by a ghost. A ghost that appears around Christmas time every year to cause festivity havoc. When the ghost appears, you can feel the presence. The presence. Get it? I waste my best jokes on you weirdos. Anyway, a ghost that witnesses say is truly terrifying, named the Brown Lady. It is believed to be the spirit of Dorothy Townshend, also known as Lady Dorothy Walpole. She died in 1726. She was just 40 years old. Her death was put down to smallpox, although it is thought to have truly been to her being imprisoned in a room and starved to death as punishment by her husband after he discovered she was having an affair. Upon her death, servants, family, and friends had seen or heard supernatural occurrences. King George IV, who was then Prince Regent, stayed at Rainham Hall in one of the staterooms. He was in a deep slumber when he suddenly awoke. His heart leapt 1,000 beats as he saw, there, at the side of the bed, stood a lady, all dressed in brown. Her hair was unkempt, her face was pale, almost pure white. The eerie lady stood by his bedside all through the night. He was petrified. He put his head under the blanket. He just knew, though, that she was there, watching. In the morning, when he got out of bed, he paced around the house relaying what he had seen in the night. He angrily screamed he would never set foot in that house ever again, and he never did. It was during the year of 1849 Major Loftus was staying over as a guest. After a long, eventful night playing chess, Major Loftus decided it was time to retire and headed up the long, winding staircase towards his bedroom. As he approached the landing, he felt a spine-chilling cold all over his body. He looked up and saw a lady stood on the landing, dressed in brown. He did not recognize her as one of the guests, or as a member of staff for that matter. As he moved towards her, she just vanished before his very eyes. Major Loftus was creeped out. The next night, he felt he had to try and see her again. With a gas lamp, he waited in the darkness on the landing. He was alone. He waited and waited. Then he saw her. She stood silent. Her head faced his direction. She did not make a sound. He began to slowly move towards her. He raised the gas lamp to her face. What he saw truly horrified him. She was looking straight at him. But where there should have been eyes, there were just empty, hollow, dark sockets. She vanished. Captain Marryat, a Royal Navy officer and novelist, stayed at Rainham Hall. He didn't believe the stories of ghosts and creepy noises heard in the dark of night. So he insisted on staying in the haunted bedroom, ready to display how stoic and brave he was. Except the night did not go as he expected it to go. In the bedroom, placed upon the wall, was a portrait of the Brown Lady. Her face stared down at him, her eyes cold, emitting an air of malevolence. The portrait stirred a sense of unease with Captain Marryat. There was a knock at the door. It was two other guests. They were going on a hunting trip in the morning and quickly wanted to ask for a check on their firearms. As Captain Marryat walked along the dark landing, he saw the spirit of the Brown Lady. There she stood. She held a gas lamp in her head which shone upon her eyeless face. Her face looked sinister, like there was something more evil lurking within. Captain Marriott fired a gun at her face. The ammo went straight through her face and embedded itself into the door behind. Captain Marriott was so frightened, he slept with loaded pistols under his pillow for the rest of the stay, afraid he would come face to Isla's face with the brown lady on the landing. It was December 1936 when this famous photograph of the Brown Lady of Raynham Hall was published. Captain Provan and Indra Shira were two photographers working for Country Life magazine. They were photographing the stairway in Raynham Hall when Indra noticed a misty, ethereal figure walking down the stairs towards them. She quickly told Captain Provan to look, but he saw nothing. When they later developed the negatives, they were shocked to discover this image of the ghostly figure of Dorothy Townshend walking down the stairs. Take a good look. Is this the Brown Lady? Story 2.
This next story is told verbatim as Misty G told it on social media.
When I was 9 years old, I could not get to sleep on Christmas Eve because I was excited about presents and I was wondering if my parents had anything to do with the gifts that I'd received from Santa the year before. We lived in Texas back then. That night it was hot because the heater was on. I got thirsty, so I got out of bed and cracked open my door to make sure no one was out in the living room, so I could get something to drink without being seen. I also wanted to spy. When I opened the door, I saw someone bent over, and then he stood up. It was Santa Claus, dressed in the red and white getup. Strangely, I could see the Christmas lights from the tree shining right through him. He was taking the stockings down off the mantle and placing them on the coffee table. When he started to turn around to put the next stocking on the table, I closed the door and jumped into bed. The next morning I woke up and told my sister what I had seen. I told her where he had put the stockings. When we went into the living room, the stockings were where I said he had put them. We both turned and looked at each other and froze for a moment. From then on, I have told everyone that I believe in Santa. Story 3. Ben Macdui, a mountain in Scotland that peaks at a staggering 4,295 feet above sea level. It has areas that are covered in snow all year round. It's a cold, bone-shivering, isolated place to be, and many climbers high upon the top. But some of them may have regretted venturing up there after they encountered, and fear lieth more, better known as the Gray Man. This is a creature that lurks in the shadows of the mountain, watching you. It has been described as being over 10 foot tall, extremely thin, a look of malnourishment upon it. Its shoulders are broad, and it runs with an animalistic agility. In 1925, scientist and mountain climber J. Norman Colley described how many years earlier he was alone near the summit. He was surrounded by mist. Visibility was low. Something didn't feel right. With every few steps or so, he would hear a crunching sound, like footsteps stepping onto hard, wet gravel. They must have been huge footsteps. He felt like he was being followed, but by what? He looked in every direction, but could see nothing, for the mist would only offer glimpses of shadows. Something was lurking in the mist. It was getting closer. J. Norman Colley ran down the mountain, stumbling over boulders, putting himself in immense danger. He did not care. He had to get away, for he did not want the Gray Man to grab him. He reached the bottom, and he vowed never to step foot on that mountain ever again, and true to his word, he never did. More and more experiences of the Gray Man began to emerge. Climber Richard Freer told about his incident upon the mountain in the 1940s. He felt a presence on the mountain of which many have reported about, a total feeling of dread. He heard the gray man making a noise that chilled him to the bone. It was an intensely high sound, like an animal of some sort but with a high shrill nature to his call. In 1948, a friend of Richard Freer told how he climbed the imposing Ben McDewey Mountain. Once at the summit he set up camp. It was cold as was expected. The wind was howling. He felt unease. He couldn't quite put his finger on why, but he felt it all the same. He woke up in the middle of the night, feeling an inescapable feeling of dread. Something was not right. He looked out of his tent to see a large figure around 10 foot tall, with dark, straggling hair matted across its body. It stood there in the mist in front of the moon. He was trapped. There was nothing he could do. He curled up inside his tent and prayed the creature would not turn in his direction to get him. In the morning he was gone. He wasn't hanging around waiting for the gray man to come back. 1943 climber Scott Tunian had a terrifying encounter with the gray man. He was alone on the mountain, trying to navigate through the ever-thickening mist. He could see a large, looming figure. It began to charge at him, gathering speed. Scott Tunian pulled out a revolver and fired 3 shots straight at the creature. It didn't stop. Tunian was by now seeing his life flash before his eyes. He ran hell for leather till he got to the bottom and felt safe enough to look behind him. There was a sighting recently in September 2022 at a nearby lodge. It is encouraged to document any sightings of wildlife in the local area. It would seem the gray man has once again been seen lurking in the misty shadows, as it was reported once more by an unsuspecting traveler. As often is the case with things of a bizarre, eerie nature, there are theories as to what the gray man is prowling the dark heights of Mount Ben McDewey. It is believed to be a creature not too dissimilar to a Yeti or a Bigfoot monster. Another theory is that high upon the mountain lies a threshold, a thin plane, between your world and their world. Another world that you cannot just walk into unless you know how, or you somehow find it without even looking. The gray man is believed to be a guard, something that wants to keep people away from this other world. Maybe that is not such a bad thing. After all, who knows what you may find? Story 4. Santa may check his list to find out if you've been naughty or nice. The worst that could happen is you don't get a present. I've not had one for years. But in Iceland, a Nordic island country placed in the North Atlantic and Arctic Ocean, things are a little bit nastier. So nasty that the children of Iceland must surely be the most well-behaved in the world, for they have Gryla, also known as the Christmas witch. Gryla lives way up in the mountains, and every Christmas she begins to stir. She has been around for centuries. There's no stopping her. Come Christmas time, she ventures into the villages and towns. She can smell the naughty children, and once they lay their eyes on Gryla, the sinister Christmas witch, then I'm sure we will be able to smell the children too, for they will crap their pants with fear. Gryla is huge. She is a giant. Her figure is hulking. She has several eyes all over her body, somewhere in the back of her head. She looks like something that may have crawled from the deepest depths of hell, walking on hooves. Her skin is disheveled and slimy. Her ears hang long. She has fangs that can tear through flesh, the flesh of naughty children. She has many tails that swish like an ogreous feline. These tails carry bags. bags with which to carry away naughty children into the night seeming because they've been naughty. Over the year, parents beg their children to behave, for Gryla will come for them, and there's nothing they can do to stop her. When she gets back to the cave, she cooks the children alive and eats them, tearing their flesh from the bone. Although sightings of her are less frequent, there have been strange noises coming from the mountains in Iceland. It is believed to be Gryla. It is not just Gryla who the children of Iceland have to beware, for she has a pet known as the rather charming Yule Cat. This Yule Cat is not full of the Christmas spirit we would hope to expect. This rather sinister, large cat with fangs like a shark prowls the countryside around Christmas time and rips apart people who have not received any new clothes. Yes, that's right, new clothes. For the cat believes you must not have worked hard enough, so you are not rewarded with new clothes for your hard work. Now those crappy new socks you get off your grandma for Christmas may actually protect you from the Yule Cat. The Icelandic witch also has 13 sons. Just like Snow White and the 7 dwarves, they have names that indicate what pranks they may play on you. They are known as the Yuletide Lads, considering their mother is the gruesome, murdering witch Gryla. They just play pranks on naughty children, and they are not pranks to be overly concerned about either. They may just place a rotten potato in your shoe, not so much as Yule Cat droppings in your socks. Some of their names are Door Slammer, who likes to slam doors at night; Sausage Swiper, who is not as painfully obstructive as some men may have initially thought. He likes to steal sausages. There is also one called Spoon Licker, Say No More. These Icelandic creatures of folklore that once lived in May still live in the mountains. If you've not been naughty, then you have nothing to worry about, do you?
Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button if you liked what you heard. Well, I bid you farewell, and don't forget to lock your door. Have a very scary Christmas.
So